All right, once again, that was Suliman Carrim's legal team, represented there at least as the leader, it seems, by Rafiq Bana SC. Let's take you straight to the Babanda Justice College. That's where we find our senior reporter, Kenny Mapanga, who's been tracking developments since today and joins us now live. And Kenny, Suliman Carrim finally getting through to his testimony, but not without a fair amount of drama, charged back and forth, even between the evidence leaders ahead of that testimony.
Indeed. Good morning to you and to the viewers once again. I think that disclaimer from the lawyers of Suliman Carrim is necessary at this point because of the amount of clashes that we've seen before the Commission's probe or lens, before we saw Suliman Carrim finally take to the stand and start to give us a bit of his version. But there's definitely something there. It seems that the Commission has decided to move on, but due to the adversarial nature of Phase 2 hearings, but specifically the way in which the Commission and Suliman Carrim's lawyers have communicated, it seems that there is a little bit of a tension there, and it's going to flare up from time to time, at least over the next 2 days, where Suliman Carrim will be giving his version before the Commission. Now, if you get to his testimony, which is really what we're here about, not so much about the clashes between the two teams, but Suliman Carrim, the Northwest businessman, is accused of using or exerting his alleged political influence to assist Vusi Muzikat Matlala with that SABC contract. So essentially now we're getting to hear from his version of what his approach will be to the evidence that he is facing, which includes WhatsApp exchanges, transactions, financial transactions as well, and then what could have been purporting to be a conversation between himself and the police minister, allegedly, that is Police Minister Senzo Mchunu, who is now on a leave of absence. So what Karim has done at the outset is to state that he does not know the police minister, that is Senzo Mchunu, and has not interacted with him. So immediately he seeks to eliminate Senzo Mchunu from the discussion altogether. I think when cross-examination intensifies, that's going to be brought back before the lens because of the conversations and the nature in which those conversations take place. Now, what he also does as a second point is that he structures himself as a victim of an alleged scam in which Vusi Muzikat Matlala and Mogotsi are allegedly involved in. He says that he was quote-unquote played by the pair. Now, how we understand, or how I understand his version, is that he states that he made some form of an investment into this SABC contract to the tune of 10 million. Now, when he wanted to receive those repayments, I guess if we could put it that way, he was informed that those purchase orders had stopped. He then turns to Brown to check the veracity of the claim of whether or not Vusi Muzikat Matlala allegedly even had this contract or was awarded this particular tender. He then claims through testimony that he was advised by Brown Mogotsi to paint himself as someone with an alleged close relationship with Police Minister Senzo Mchunu in order to ensure that the payments come through, so that Vusi Muzikat Matlala understands that in order to keep him sweet, he must make sure that those payments continuously come through to him. So he says it was a strategy he was given by Brown Mogotsi in order to ensure that he gets those repayments into what he invested into that particular contract, that is the Medicare contract. So it seems that he's trying to, I guess, provide a rationale to the conversations that take place in the WhatsApp exchanges and the subsequent payments. Now, we know the investigation, or what is being suggested before the probe, is that Vusi Muzikat Matlala turned to this particular individual, that is Suliman Carrim, in order to safeguard his contracts and ensure that the purchase orders came through. And the role that Suliman Carrim allegedly played is that he ensured it was paid through by exerting his alleged political influence to speak to the police minister and ensure that this contract was looked at, that was flagged. Now, the text message that may come up with respect to this particular evidence is quite specific. I know Karim is laying the foundation, or attempting to lay the foundation, that he was pretending all this time, but the WhatsApp exchange is quite specific. The one that he says to Vusi Muzikat Matlala in the exchange, that this is what I sent to him him being the minister, you see that he's specifically asking about the contract. He's specifically asking why it has been flagged and whether or not those purchase orders will be completed, and the concerns that Vusimuzi Cat Matlala. So in this regard, he is allegedly assisting Cats with ensuring that the purchase orders do take place. And we know that in the main, that was the main concern of Vusimuzi Cat Matlala in all the various interactions that we see him undertaking, whether it is with high-ranking SABC officials or with influential businessmen who may have close ties with the ANC, or ministers or politicians that could work in his favor. All of those interactions were to reach that end of ensuring that that particular contract was safeguarded and wasn't cancelled, which explains how he spilled the beans when it eventually was cancelled, and then he landed up arrested for the attempted murder of Teboho Tobejane. So I'm not sure that as things stand, whether or not that particular version will stand. We're still in the early stages where he gets to give his version pretty much almost uninterrupted before the probing questions then begin with respect to what his defense is to the allegations that he is facing. But at the outset, what you do see in the evidence, what is emerging, is that he's completely tried to eliminate Senzo Mkhunu from the conversation and paints Brown Mogotsi and Vusimuzi Cat Matlala as two individuals who were allegedly trying to scam him or played him in the Medicare contract, and that he had invested and was expecting a particular return. Whether or not that version will stand will be determined by these 2 days of testimony and the subsequent questioning that will follow from the chief evidence leader when he takes him to task on the various claims that he makes or seeks to advance before the commission, and he relays it back to the evidence which points to an alleged kickback, or rather someone exerting their alleged political influence in order to ensure that those alleged payments are made. But we'll see over the next 2 days whether or not that version will hold up. It's over to you in studio.
Yeah, Kenny, and I can see there's some movement behind you there suggesting that the commissioners might walk in at any moment now. But to the point that you've made, Suliman Carrim saying he's currently out of pocket by 8.5 million rand. And that, I suppose, is part of this picture he's playing that he's been scammed after making that investment of 10 million rand. But it was also interesting to hear him, I suppose, outline the nature of the relationship he has with Brown Mogotsi, saying he knows him from 15 years ago, and at some stage conceding that he's done business with the company owned by Brown Mogotsi's wife.
Indeed, that is some of the immutable evidence before the probe, which I think creates more of a relationship with him and Brown Mogotsi and doesn't explain this particular posture in which he is trying to suggest that he was allegedly scammed by Brown Mogotsi. It's quite clear that this is someone that he trusted to the extent that he even turned to him, if his version is correct, to check whether or not that particular contract was real, and even if this version is correct, Ayanda, followed his advice and pretended to have close proximity with Police Minister Senzo Mkhunu in order to ensure that those payments were made. But of course, in the beginning stages, there still is a gap regarding why he paints Brown Mogotsi now as this individual who allegedly scammed him. But in the moment, he was an individual who was safe enough not only to do business with his wife, but enjoyed a long relationship with, as I guess we could put it, comrades, quote-unquote comrades, in the Northwest. And he also knew him well enough to turn to him and receive some form of a strategy or check the veracity of the contracts that Vusimuzi Cat Matlala enjoyed. So a lot of questions are still in the air about the multiple versions that are here before the commission. But I'm sure when cross-examination gets to that stage, it will get to the true events and what the most plausible version of what the relationship between the pair was, and whether or not Brown Mogotsi had indeed allegedly scammed him, or was this all a coordinated effort to ensure that Vusimuzi Cat Matlala's contract was safeguarded because of the alleged kickback that it could afford. But we'll hear more from Suliman Carrim as he continues with his testimony. Let's take a listen.